Okay, so yeah, welcome back to the Vintage Wine Merchants podcast in 2026. How does it feel to take 2 months, I think it is, and come back?
It seems like a long time. This
Yeah.
feels very weird for what was very natural before. No, it's great to get back. I've been itching to get back for the last few weeks. Just a few things on, as you know.
Have there been things on your mind that you've wanted to do episodes on? Because I'm sure that that's something that kind of you think about quite often.
There's loads of things I'd love to do episodes on. I think we roughly touched on them. But obviously this episode is going to be about what Christmas looks like in the vintage. What we've been up to, because there's been a lot happening behind the scenes since we last recorded, and then what 2026 looks like, I guess, for us and other businesses like us.
Yeah.
So that's a couple of things that definitely need to cover. And the other things that I have been thinking about is, just with regards to shopping local is one thing. Like, I really would love to do something on shopping local, because people don't realise, a lot of people come in and say to us, as you know, I didn't realise you were so cheap for that, and if we hear once, we've heard before, well, you're the cheapest off license in the town for that particular product, or for several products, but everybody just thinks that Asda, Tesco's, Lidl, without only to name a few, are going to be the best value. I would like to basically open people's minds into pricing and quality as well, because obviously difference in quality and bits and pieces between different retailers. So that's what's been on my mind, but
It's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff, but we'll touch on them later dates.
Yeah, okay. So then, to get straight into it, I suppose we're going to go into what Christmas looks like, but how was this Christmas versus other years, I think, from being in the middle of it all for you?
I would say this Christmas was actually the most organised I've ever been, if I'm completely honest. It was stressful at times, but I've definitely had more stressful years, to be honest. I was quite happy with how it all went, with how our turnover so on went. Couldn't really fault anything. Even the way it fell this year, obviously that's the only holiday that changes normally. Bank holidays tend to be on a Monday, so you can kind of know what a bank holiday weekend's going to be like. But the way it fell, it gave you like a good run, because a lot of our customers used annual leave for like the Monday, Tuesday, where they would usually be working, just to extend it into the full week before Christmas. So take it back to the Friday before Christmas, people would finish up in their jobs, then they were maybe doing some shopping at the weekend, and then that gave them Sunday right through till Wednesday to shop with us. So it's nice and spread. So it was. I think you'll agree that the Sunday before Christmas took me by surprise.
Yeah, big time.
Compared to even last year, like the Sunday last year in 2024, it was calm. Like there was triple the amount of staff on, but we were fine. This year I tripled up the staff, as you know, and I don't think you got to go home at your home time, did you? And I definitely didn't. So that definitely took me by surprise big time. But that's it. Everybody's patterns is different, who's organised, who's not organised. I think a lot, for years, the 24th of December was the biggest day, and still is a very, very big day. But I've seen years where the 23rd has flipped. You're maybe sitting on like 90% on the 23rd, and then your full amount on the 24th. And sometimes I've seen that flip, which has been good, because people are just a wee bit more organised. And this whole, let's have family dinner on Christmas Eve, like this has came about these last few years. Let's do stuff with go and visit certain people on Christmas Eve and so on, rather than do it on Christmas Day or Boxing Day. So people like to get those things out of the way. So that means retail has finished on the 22nd or 23rd.
Well, that's what my family do. Is we then have different things across the 3 days. So then Christmas Eve is no longer like something that involves preparation
and stress.
Yeah, it is. It's part of the package, which I think is better anyway, because why would you not want a 3 day
Yeah.
holiday period thing anyway, you know.
Yeah.
But then whenever you talk about the organization that goes into or that went into it this year, or the organization level that we hit, A, what did that look like from just a behind the scenes point of view, and then B, do you think that factored into making it like a more successful Christmas in inverted commas? Do you know what I mean? Or did you find it like the level of organization made you feel better but didn't really contribute numerically as such? Do you know what I mean?
I would say, well, why it was slightly more organized is because every single year I sit down with a diary for the year following, and I write notes of what happened when and what I may change. So I was making notes on my phone on the 15th, 17th, 21st of December, so that can all be reviewed in October before Christmas starts with us. I do that every year. I've started doing that. That's my eighth or ninth Christmas owning the shop. Obviously worked in the shop for like 12, 13 years before that. And I think every year you tend to find that, well, obviously the pattern, as I mentioned, has changed over the past few years. But I think that's just kind of getting to know that. Even certain staff members, you know, who were with us last year, the year before, and so on, have now realised what I mean whenever I say, oh, we need to do this before a certain date, or we are screwed, you know. And they are now thinking to themselves, oh yeah, I remember that. Do you remember 2 years ago whenever we got hit badly that day, and it was only because we weren't prepared. Even with things like, we have a closing time, as you know. Staff finish their shift, they count the till, they lodge it into the safe, and that's them out the door. The month of December is very different, as you've experienced now, that it's a finish. So the shutter may go down, but we don't go home.
Yeah.
And then that means that you're walking into a fresh shop the next morning. It makes a massive difference. Even to have the floors all sitting hoovered, pristine, mopped, the whole shop fully stocked, clean, tidy, priced, ready for the next day. You know, that just makes a massive difference. So things that got there that we've introduced over the last couple of years has made it more enjoyable, I suppose you would say. And I absolutely love Christmas. I love every day I come in here, to be perfectly honest, but I particularly love Christmas because of the buzz. People are happy. They are telling you about certain people coming home, or maybe they've just came home for Christmas and are seeing family, and there's just a different level. It's like the party and then the holiday party. You know, there's two different ones.
Yeah.
You know, once you're off work, you're on holiday. You know, that's it. When holiday season, you know, and I'm sure everyone's kind of the same. You know, there's different moods, I suppose you'd say. So, what was the question?
It was just to do with what. So you gave us a good idea what Christmas looked like this year, more from how we did things differently. But then it was how do you feel that different attitude or that different feeling plays into the outcome of Christmas? Did you find it I know the organization obviously plays into making sure you've got the right level of stock and stuff like that, or you know, the basic stuff.
Yeah.
But did you find maybe that the lack of stress helps you figure out other things, or did you find that when you were less organized and more under pressure, do you find that you perform better then? You know, just from your point of view.
I would say the lack of stress, because things are more organized, reflects on the sales, because customers are coming in and they are getting your full attention. Once you are under severe pressure and you're disorganized in your own head, even taking that 10, 15, 20 minutes with someone to put together the Christmas order is not as pleasant an experience, I would say, for the customers. So I would say it probably reflects through to the customer. And again, if somebody is enjoying the conversation as you're adding stuff on, as you're more upbeat because you're not stressed and the weight of the world is not on your shoulders, you know, that just naturally makes people want to buy more. So if you are in an environment where you're getting good recommendations, you're getting that person's time, you're getting the full personal shopping experience, which I say all the time. That's what where we are different to not everyone else, but a lot of other people. Well, then all of a sudden you've got a happier customer, and a happy customer spends.
Yeah.
So, there's still very few independent. There's less and less independent shops out there.
Yeah.
But I read an article the other day where they said there's 1,000 independent off licenses, or sorry, wine shops off licenses, whatever it may be, across the UK, and only 250 of them are fully independent, owned by somebody like me.
Not like
The other 750 are now a chain.
Yeah, or franchise or something like that.
Yeah. And it's not very often now you can actually walk into a shop and get speaking to someone who is the owner, someone who works alongside the owner, learns from the owner. I'm not saying I know everything, because I do not. There's a lot to learn with wine, but I know everything I need to know.
And you've also you've got a vested interest in learning too. I think if you know that you have a national marketing team, or like a tech sheet printed by a team of 5 people in a corporate branch somewhere, the incentive isn't there for you as much. So whereas the responsibility is 100% on you and the people you surround yourself with. To have the things that people need.
Yeah, very much so. Like I would say I'm a teacher. So a winemaker, a rep, brand ambassador could come in here, fill my head full of nuggets of information, and I will learn bits and pieces, retain some of it, retain what I think I need to know. But I tend to find that whenever I am recommending to a customer, I'm getting all those nuggets of information out of my brain and communicating that across, teaching the customer, and then I feel like I'm teaching myself, if that makes sense. Because I'm saying these things, I'm putting all these things together that I've been told and things that I know about that region or about that grape or whatever, and I'm putting all these things together, and sometimes the light bulb moment happens whenever I'm actually explaining it to a customer, because I'm like, I knew all of that, but I didn't actually put it all together. Do you know? And the same thing would happen whenever I have staff. You know yourself, I would stop a bottle of wine, we'd talk about something, I'd be like, actually, do you know what, that's a great bottle of wine, and here's a little nugget of information, which is great for sales. And that teaches me as such. So I think whenever you're doing something with a lot of passion, that reflects through, and then all of a sudden, that's what sales is about, effectively. If you don't have the passion, what way would you put it? If you don't have the passion for the product, how can you sell it without being just a typical salesperson? I don't need to be a salesperson, because the products sell themselves. Once you recommend something and they open it in their house and they sit down and they drink it, they come back here and say, do you know what, loved it, let's buy another one. Or absolutely loved that one, let's try something else, what would you recommend next? They don't even want to know the facts and figures about the next one. All they want to know is, what are you recommending next? Because you know what, you did a very good job there. So that's kind of all. Can't really think of anything else to say there on that one.
Whenever you talked as well about value on the part of independence as well, independence with a TS, not independence with a CE. Whenever you say about trying to and it's something that I think about a lot as well when I am a consumer, but as you go out into the world to look for stuff, how do you sort of get a sense of what's on offer from independent places? And when you talk about shopping local, because for me, I know the town that I live in, but there are always limitations to what you can get where you live and stuff, and then it's knowing how, do you spend a day like going to somewhere new, and or whenever it comes to people learning what we have that's actually cheaper than supermarkets, what different ways are there that you think you can engage with independent outlets of different things obviously specifically to do with us, but to really see the truth behind, like independent places aren't more expensive. Let that be one of the statements.
Well, obviously, the easiest way, as everyone would know, would be to directly price compare, but that doesn't always work with regards to this business. As you know, there's there's a variation in all products that we sell. You may buy a particular brand from a supermarket, and you may buy the exact same brand from ourselves, the same grape, or even from the beers or spirits, but we'll use wine for instance. And our wine will have been bottled at source. The wine that you generally tend to find in supermarkets, high volume, tends to be bottled here in the UK. So if you were to take a brand, particular Sauvignon Blanc, buy it in a supermarket, come to an independent like ourselves, or there's a few others in the town here. There's even chains in the town here as well that source their stuff the same place as we source it, because we cannot afford to bottle 42,000 bottles of this particular one Sauvignon Blanc. And if you were to do a direct comparison, side by side, taste the supermarket wine and our wine, where ours has been bottled at source, that would be a massive difference. So I always bring it back to fuel. So everyone talks about supermarket fuel not being as good for your car, not doing as many miles and all that stuff.
Water in your fuel filter.
Yeah. So it does the same job. Gets you from A to B. You may have saved maybe less than 1%, if even sometimes, but it did the same job, but it just did a little damage along the way. So let's take wine for instance. It does the same job, but the damage along the way could be the fact that it's giving you a bit more of a groggy head, that the extra chemicals, sugars and so on might be attacking the digestive system, reflux. So many times customers have come in to me and say, I used to really like that particular brand, but I can't drink it now because it gives me awful heartburn, or an awful sore head, or it's not the same as it used to be. And you're like, well, it is actually, but you choose to buy the cheaper option from a supermarket. And I'm not saying it's always cheaper, because most of the wines we would have the same RRPs, but supermarkets tend to push big on like 6 for 25% off, which we do from time to time as well. And people think, oh, I'm getting an offer, I'm going to take it. They stock up for absolutely no reason. They don't need 6 bottles, but they're like, oh, I must buy it when it's on offer. That's fine. But at the same time, those 6 bottles are not the same as what you're going to get in an independent retailer. So you think to yourself, it's the same as pulling into a supermarket. And it's very hard to talk about supermarkets without mentioning them here.
It's very hard because we're surrounded on all sides.
Yeah.
Like in Antrim, they're everywhere, and you do feel very like that a lot of supermarkets are designed specifically to be difficult to get to, so that you don't then go somewhere else.
Yeah.
You have to go to one place and then back out. Yeah. But somehow we still have 4, 5 within a certain distance.
But it doesn't matter whether you're buying a bottle of wine, a bottle of vodka, a case of beer, any of that. You could go over to across the road from us here is Apperley's Butchers. Fantastic butchers, family run, independent. You buy a chicken fillet over there, and you buy a chicken fillet in Tesco's.
It's distinctly different.
Or somewhere else, a supermarket, let's say. You put the two of them side by side and cook them side by side. Very, very different. Eggs is the exact same. You crack 2 eggs from 2 different places into a bowl. I did this once, and I actually didn't eat either eggs. I chucked them out, and I actually just then fresh bowl. The ones I got in a independent shop was the ones that I ended up using.
My parents got chickens, I think about 8 months ago, and usually after you visit them once a week, you come home with some eggs. Yeah. And there's just one day a week when there's a huge difference.
Yeah.
for breakfast versus the rest of the week whenever you're supplied by the supermarket.
Yeah.
It is really, really interesting. Like, obviously, everybody knows off the top of their head, you know, that in order to provide things in such large quantities in an affordable way, you've got to cut corners. But there's a real like consumer difficulty between you maybe aren't spending more money, but you're going out of your way just to find somewhere or to go into somewhere and compare.
Yeah.
But it does pay off.
Yeah.
It does pay off, and obviously then you're from like from an economical point of view, you're paying into something that then returns to your local area.
Yep.
In a much more realistic way, rather than going to some sort of like centralized home fund or whatever. Do you know what I mean? As well, like
I see the business aspect of it. Like if I was the owner or person in charge of purchasing within some of the supermarkets, and a winery from New Zealand came to me and said, look, we can tank this to the south of England, we can tank this to Germany, we can tank this to somewhere, and we'll get it bottled there, because you know shipping is so expensive these days. You know, the weight and the space are the two things that's effectively the calculation of how shipping's done. If you take a 750ml bottle of wine, you've got obviously 0.75 kilograms. But how much is the glass? The glass is probably, I actually don't know, probably 300 grams.
It would depend. If it's a
yeah.
Kanache, it's going to be about more than half a kilo
more,
as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you think to yourself, right? All of a sudden, you've only got 2/3 of the weight as opposed to the full weight. Space. If you ever look at a case of wine and you see the 12 bottles or 6 bottles, and you see the next coming up, and you've all this empty space, you know, you can put that same volume of wine into probably, let's say, going to calculate here, into a fifth of the space.
Yeah,
so
like
you've only got 2/3 of the weight, and you've got a fifth of the space. All of a sudden, you've just saved a fortune on shipping for, as I say, they usually come in 42,000 litre plastic tanks. So you've been able to save, say, maybe 5, maybe 8% as such, on the price of the end product once it gets to the UK, just by getting it bottled here. Well, then all of a sudden you're saying to yourself, well, you know what, I can give this to my customers for 5 or 8% cheaper than next door,
someone who doesn't
or the
have the
other
choice.
supermarket.
Yeah.
Someone who doesn't have the choice is right. But the thing about it is, you know, it's going to have the same label, it's going to have all the same statistics, but you know, it's not going to be the same quality. But they're going to say to themselves, well, do you know what? Customers like quantity, especially when it comes to alcohol. Sometimes they like quantity over quality, and you know, it's near enough. It's not too bad. So yeah, be fine. We can sell it cheaper, or we can make that extra 5% ourselves. 5% of £1 million, or let's face it, supermarket's case, £1 billion. 5% of £1 billion is a lot of money.
It makes a difference at the end of the
So
year.
why would you not, as a financial director of a supermarket, take that deal? Of course you would, because you don't really care. The customers are going to buy it anyway, you know. But you could bring it back to anything. You could bring it back to cereal. You could bring it back to beans. You could bring it back to fruit and veg. You know, nobody is going to tell me that you get the same quality from any supermarket than what you would get in an independent. You know, but we all flock to them. We always do.
Yeah, I think.
And
yeah,
as long as we
I,
do, that's it.
If I am stumped for where to find something, I annoyingly have to admit to the fact that I will go to a supermarket, because you know the chances are they have it.
Yeah.
Even though you kind of don't really want to get it from there, but then I know that like I'm not in the majority. The majority of people just like to do what's easy, and I don't fault them for that.
Yeah.
Can't fault them for that, because who doesn't want things to be easier? Do you know what I mean?
But a lot of it's down to marketing, you know, and you know, I actually was in. So I had a good friend who used to work in one of the supermarkets, and every so often they would have sent me a few like snaps, and would have said, "Here, this is a really good deal. You know, you should be buying this from here." No, I wouldn't buy the lower grade to bring it to my shop. We can't do that anyway. You kind of think in some volumes, but we don't do anyway. We get directly from our suppliers. But you know, people think, why don't you go to a supermarket and buy it there because it's so cheap? No, like, you know yourself, there's a bottle of wine that's in there that was returned to us. Staff member took the return back without a receipt. The bottle of wine is bottled here in the UK. We only sell the Portuguese bottled wine. That's a hint for you. Maybe figure out what it is. It's sitting in there for months now. I refuse to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
I know most of the customers who come in here to buy that particular wine, it might put them off that wine, because I know side by side that would put me off.
Yeah.
And I hate that, like, because I've got a passion for wine in particular. I hate people coming into me and saying, I used to really like that, but I don't like it anymore. I don't know why. You know.
Oh, you haven't been
I
here
do.
in 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
You're only but also, you know, like, do you want to wake up the next morning? I'm not saying if you buy certain bottles of wine that's been bottled at source and bought out of here or other independents, because all independents equally work hard to source the wines and get it on your shelf. But do you want to wake up fresh the next morning, or do you want to wake up less fresh, we'll say?
Sticky, yeah.
Groggy, whatever it may be. Obviously, it depends on how much you drink that night before, what your diet's like.
Yes. Sulfate
Are you
allergies.
are you hydrated? Yeah, sulfate. You know, I've heard everything over the years. So yeah, I think that, yeah, if a lot of people were educated more on that, it would make a massive difference. But I could talk all day about this, because I am a big believer in shopping local.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff I buy comes from Kearney's and Randallstown, because everything I buy in there is great quality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, should it be bananas? Should it be their cereal? Whatever. There is a distinctive difference in taste to what I buy there as opposed to what I buy in other supermarkets. You know, I've got vouchers in the front of my car for a supermarket. I mean, a couple of £100 worth of vouchers that I have been given over the Christmas period, because a lot of we would maybe do some deals where if you buy so much with a drinks company, or they would then say, right, okay, we'll give you a £50 voucher for such and such, because it's easy for them, because they could do it over the whole of Northern Ireland, and there's your voucher. It's a bit like saying Amazon voucher, because you can, and no matter where you are, you can buy off Amazon. You know, so everybody always has a supermarket close to them that they go shopping in. So you get that, and then you get other ones who would just put it in a card and say, here, buy yourself something. You know, because you can't really gift drink to somebody who owns an off license. You know, well, you can, like, the more the merrier. But yeah, that's what a lot of them in the trade seem to say. They're like, oh, it seems like there was no effort put in. It's like, I can't buy a bottle of wine for you. Like, if you were,
I mean, it, like, even I have one friend who still would buy me, my uncle maybe as well, but I can tell he just knows somewhere to get it from that I'm not aware of.
Yeah.
And it's just this, you have to be really sneaky like that, and just know somewhere that you maybe haven't heard of or don't have access to. It's quite, you can see that thought process coming about. It's quite funny.
Yeah, so that's why I end up with vouchers. But honestly, I could tell you in my one hand how many times I've visited a supermarket in a year. You know, now don't get me wrong, if you have 3 kids and, you know, you're constantly needing to run the supermarket, I totally get that. But, you know, if you are an adult living in a house, there's no reason why you actually have to visit a supermarket every single week. You know, you can, like, I would buy things like, one thing in particular I bought in the chemist in Randallstown pharmacy, and I purchased it. It was £1 and never thought anything more of it, but I just remember that it was £1. I walked into a supermarket about a week later, seen the exact same product for £2.45, and I thought to myself, are you serious? Could not believe it. I actually went home, because the sticker for Randallstown Pharmacy still have, you know, the bit like ours, they have the price tag, and I looked at it and I was like, right, okay,
You affirmed to yourself a bit,
99p. And I was like, right, okay, fair enough. But again, we things I got there just proved to me what I've always been thinking. You know, I'm not saying it's always 99p. I'm not saying that maybe it's our recommended retail price is £2.45, but like, you would have just thought walking into a large supermarket like that they would be as cheap, if not cheaper, because that's what market
because they have
tells
the
us.
facility to do it. But you know, where they then make it back, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I suppose that makes, whenever we talk about then moving into a new year, the competition with those people who are able to consistently be cheaper is always a challenge.
Yeah.
No matter to what degree it's a challenge, not really too concerned. But aside from that, coming into a new year, what do you see as some of the other challenges that might appear?
Well, I think it's very obvious at the minute with regards to national insurance, wage increases, rate increases, utility bills. Everything's just increasing. Not to mention our duty increase, which takes effect off the 1st of February. So, which has taken effect of the 1st of February. Is this going out before or after the 1st of February?
It might be the 30th of January, I think.
Yeah, it might be the 30th of January. But as from the 1st of February, UK duty increase has went on again. So we have a few of these that are always like lined up every sort of 6 months or so. And this one, now I don't know the figures exactly top of my head, but I've looked across a few things. So you're looking at like a litre bottle of spirits gone up by a pound roughly, and that would be your duty increase. So if somebody came and said there's a duty increase going on that, and it's going to be 66p or say 60p, you'd be like, all right, okay, it's only 60p. But then you remember that after you put duty on, you also pay VAT. So you're paying another 20% on top of that. So that's 72p. Your supplier who's bringing it into the country works on it based off a margin. So they'll put their margin on top of it. And then ourselves, we work on margins as well, like every other retailer. So we put our margin on top. So all of a sudden, you've got your 60p plus your 12p plus maybe another 12p, and then maybe another 12p for ourselves. And then you say to yourself, oh, right, okay, there's a pound. Do you know, that's just simple as.
But even if you have someone, it's a totally normal thing to have people who will buy, and we use it as an example, a litre bottle of Smirnoff every Monday. And that's an extra pound. They're paying for something every Monday. But then that's not to mention when they come in here, that's an extra pound for that item. Yeah. Plus an extra whatever for every other thing they buy on their way out of the house and back.
Yeah.
But then if you think about, some of those people might be on pensions, some of them might be on like wages or self-employed or whatever. The increases that then have to go into what they earn, they are never as proportional. But then that doesn't even consider someone like you who's an employer, who then has a proportional increase all the time on. So that it's very, I found, again, I'm just over a year now in this industry watching how those duties take effect and litigation takes effect in terms of everything increases except the facilities that allow them to increase, which is really funny. Like, and I almost want to put you on the spot and say, like, do you think there are any clever ways that people find to combat these raises or these changes? Not obviously, like, I'm not, there'll always be someone who'll come up with an illegal way to do these things, but from a point of view of like a consumer versus an employer or both, what do you kind of see as some of the things people might do, if anything? It might just be like a total unknown at this point. To be fair, I suppose you just have to be smart about how you're buying, so if you're coming in here and you're typically buying wine, we offer, as we always do, 10% on a case or more. So if you buy 12 bottles of wine, you get 10% off recommended retail. So, if you're coming in every week and buying 3 bottles for the weekend for yourself, for you and your partner, for you and friends coming around, whatever it may be, just say to yourself, well, do you know what? Get paid monthly. How about I just go and get those 12 bottles, save myself 10%? Just be smart. And I know a lot of people do this with regards to different offers that would appear in supermarkets where they, as I said, like people stocking up for their 6 bottles and all because it's 25% off. But I know people who would say to me that they have went in, not for any wine whatsoever, seen it, bought it, and then thought, I don't even need that in the house. I already have 12 or 15 bottles lying there, that's never been opened. And I think every house is nearly the same. There's always a cupboard with drink in it that has never been opened. Yeah. It's been gifted, and then you just keep adding to it every time there's an offer, I think as well, what I will have, again, to grasp an example, someone who's got 9 bottles on the till. I say, well, you get 10% off 12. Yeah. Which means you're only really paying for one more or somewhere in and around that. And a lot of people will say, no, if I have 12, I'll drink 12. I'm like, So a lot of people, rather, especially when prices are going up, will still rather spend more over the course of time
Yeah.
than just exercise a bit of discipline. And I think
Yeah.
that maybe from over the past couple of minutes having it run through my mind, I think discipline might be the key with a lot of things. Like,
Yeah.
it'll benefit certain people, it'll benefit everybody more to then be disciplined with how you spend and notice how larger volumes can save you slight amounts, which then sort of combat price increases.
Yep.
You just have to be sure to go, well, I don't need all of this right now.
Yep.
And I can keep that to one side. And, you know, I find that's maybe one thing that I think, you know, people listening to this who are a little bit worried about
Yeah.
the cost, it is a matter of really setting yourself some guidelines or some rules in terms of spend more, but really make sure that you're looking at what you've got.
It all comes down to, is it fail to plan, plan to fail? Do you know? It doesn't matter whether you're talking about fitness, doesn't matter whether you're talking about finances, doesn't matter. That's just it. You know, you book a trip and you go to Portugal for a week, you know, and you come home and you say, oh, I really wanted to go and see such and such, but I didn't get time. I didn't do this, didn't do that. And it's like, well, did you not have time, or did you just not plan it properly? You know, you write a list. That's what I do with holidays. I say, right, okay, we're flying to such and such a place. Let's see what there is to do in that area, give or take. You know, I don't mind like a 2.5 hour journey if I have to, if I want to go and see a specific thing. You know, plan it in, say, right, okay, let's do that day. Or, you know, somebody being on holidays is like, oh, I didn't get tickets for that. And you're like, well, yeah, it's a main attraction. You know, book your tickets in advance. You know, so that's all down. But it even comes down to finances. Like I would say from I was a teenager, I was very good at saving. But I would nearly have said that I was nearly addicted to saving.
Yeah.
And there's not very many people like that. But like whenever I got to my mid to late 20s, I then started realizing how beneficial it was. You know, I always knew that this was the business that I wanted to buy. I always knew that. I always knew that I wanted to have an apartment in the city centre, that I wanted to have a house in the country, wanted to have all of this stuff. But like, you know, you think to yourself, my God, most people can't even afford one, never mind all three. But it goes back down to, you know, whenever I was 16 and started working in here, you know, I started saving a £5 a week, right, into my savings account. And like back then, you were only working one shift. You might only be getting £25 for it. So like that was quite a lot. Then all of a sudden,
You just reminded me of when I first started working at 17. I was getting paid £25 a week, and my driving lessons were £32 a week.
Yeah.
So
yeah, remember that. But like, you know, then all of a sudden, then I would have been like, right, okay, well, you know, get the second shift. Now I'm getting £50 a week. Well, I've been living off £20 a week for that, you know.
Keep doing that, yeah.
So what am I going to do with the other 25? And I was like, well, either treat myself, which happened every so often, or how about put that £25 into my savings account too? And all of a sudden it started snowballing, and then, you know, you get a little bit older, your wage increase comes, and then you say to yourself, well, do you know what, I'm used to spending, living off this, you know, and that's obviously when you're living at home, you know, you're not paying housekeep, you're not paying whatever, and then all of a sudden you're full time, you're like, right, okay, yeah, I've saved up the money for a car, I've saved up, you know, I've got my driving lessons and stuff paid for. You say to yourself, right, well, do you know what, I don't have to pay off a car because I've just been saving it for the last 2 years. And then all of a sudden, because you're not paying off a car, you're able to save more because you're not paying debt, and it's just a snowball effect, you know. And like, I remember going to my savings account whenever I was purchasing my apartment in Belfast, whenever I was 26, and I went to my savings account thinking to myself, I should have enough for the deposit, you know. I should have enough for like a 10% deposit here. I knew rightly kind of what I had, but I didn't really put it all together because I had separate bank accounts, and I had like certain, like an emergency fund, and I had like a savings account here and a savings. But whenever I actually went together and like added it all together, I didn't realize that I had so much, and it was like a really nice surprise. And so bought the apartment, furnished the apartment, didn't have to take any debt for furnishing. Like, everybody's paying off TVs and sofas and all this. You say to yourself, well, do you know what, I don't have to do that. So it's all down to like that planning, how you spend your money and what you do with it. You know, I used to work in a company many years ago with regards to probably where a lot of this came from, financial education. And we would have said, like, finance is just like a roadmap. But like whenever you get paid at the end of the month, you're obviously going to take out your mortgage. You're going to take out this, that, childcare, how much it takes for fuel and all that stuff. And then you're going to say, right, this is what I've left over. Divide that down over what we're going to treat ourselves with, what's going to food, where we're going to buy our wine or beers, whatever it may be. But not everybody does that. They just keep tapping, and then all of a sudden it's the 15th of the month, and they're like, oh no, I have only £75 to survive me to the 28th of the month. Yeah. And I just don't understand it. It's this whole January thing. I still don't understand it too, because I have a different mindset. But like, I think to myself, if I was getting paid monthly and I had a long month, why would I not be putting £50 or £75 a month into a savings account? That's my January.
Yeah, just for the purpose
my January
that
account
was coming up. Yeah.
Or for Christmas, and then all of a sudden, there.
Yeah. I suppose it really comes down to how well you can think around getting ahead a little bit, and starting with a small amount of discipline, which will lead you back in front.
Yeah.
All kinds of stories and things on that, but rather than dwelling too much on that side of things, before we finish up today, not that we've been negative, but for the shinier side of the coin, where do you see 2026 going in terms of like not so much like a success rate, but in terms of planning, and have you anything lined up, or what are you looking forward to the most?
There's a lot of ideas floating with regards to everyone's asking me, are we going to do a large event like we did before?
Yeah.
It's been thought about. It has been thought about in detail. But nothing has been planned just yet. There's a few people I do need to speak to because I have an idea for something different. I also have an idea in the run up to Christmas for a little bit of an event as well. But that's still ages away. I think 2026 is going to be a hard year for a lot of businesses. I think a lot of people are being a lot savvier with their money, and that's why I would encourage people to take advantage of offers that are available to them. And as I say, like, if you're buying a case of wine and you're saving 12 quid by getting that 10% off, well, then just say to yourself, well, do you know what? I would usually be spending that buying those 12 over the case.
It is still a saving. Yeah,
so
exactly.
How about you just leave here, get into your car, and just transfer that small amount into an account somewhere?
Yeah, because you've got it in your pocket. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because you would have spent it over the month anyway, so transfer it somewhere that you can't reach it.
Yeah.
Do you know? So I think if people are smart that sort of way, it will be good. But I think that independent off licenses and supermarkets are going to be pretty good this year. I know there's a lot of doom and gloom out there and so on, but I do think a lot of people over the last couple of years has went crazy with weekend getaways, with concerts. Don't even start me on concerts, like with different things.
Tickets the other night.
Yeah, but like you buy concert tickets, you're saying to yourself, they're not cheap anymore. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that'll do me for May. And then you're saying to yourself, oh, well, do you know what? I want something new to wear. Right, okay, that's grand. Everybody needs new clothes. And then they'll say, oh, should we go for dinner before it? We'll have a few drinks before it as well, somewhere. Yeah, that's fine, no worries. You got to make a night of it. But all of a sudden, if you don't live near the city too, all of a sudden you're booking into a hotel somewhere, or you're paying for a taxi somewhere. And then all of a sudden that one night has cost you, let's say, 250 quid, maybe 300 quid. For some people, probably more. But definitely won't happen in my house. But, all of a sudden, you say to yourself, would you rather have that one night, or would you rather be able to have, a load of, like we had at COVID, a load of friends around to the house, throw £80 towards drink, have a nice selection drink, and be able to get a takeaway for, another like 40, 50 quid, and just say, do you know what, rather than have one big mad night out, how about have 3 great nights out with the people I care about?
Yeah.
At my house, in my garden, in whatever. Because we all spent this money in our back gardens whenever COVID happened and built bars in our house and all, but are they ever getting used anymore?
That's true, yeah. It's really
the city and the bars are absolutely rammed, and I think that's what's going to happen, because I don't think people are going to be able to afford to go out. And I feel sorry for the hospitality sector, because they've just been, they've got news that they're going to be hit very, very hard. And that is going to have to be pushed on to the customer, just like I was saying with duty increases for shelves. It still applies to the on-trade as well. So you know, there has to be a breaking point where people say to themselves, you know, do I go out or do I have 3 or 4 great nights in the house or at a friend's house?
Yeah.
You know, so I think, unfortunately for the hospitality sector, I think a lot of people are going to make those decisions, and they're going to come here and say, you know what, we're sitting in, but our treat to ourselves because we're sitting in is we're going to trade up a little and enjoy what we're drinking.
And we're still only paying 20% on the bottle instead of 90. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I get watching trends like that is still something I'm getting used to. I think it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Before we go today, is there anything else you want to leave people with, just for the end of dry January?
I think dry January has been not so dry this year, if I'm completely honest. A lot of people are making it a week, and you know, and coming in. I know a lot of people have said that because the end of January falls on Saturday this year, that Saturday doesn't count.
Big weekend. Yeah.
So I would say drink responsibly. That's what I would say. And if you drink responsibly all year round, you have no need to do Sober October. You have no need to. But, you know, a little break every so often, I'd be all on for that. Definitely. You know, you don't need to be drinking all the time. But, you know, little breaks are good. But, you know, you don't have to, just because you've had a break for a month doesn't mean you have to go hard on it either.
Yeah.
You know? But just buy all your drink in the vintage.
But no, thank you very much. And we'll be back again next week with more thematic stuff, I suppose.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome.
Really quickly, you just